Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to Ulster University's social work webinar. Delighted for you to join us this evening. This should be a very popular webinar. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm sure my colleagues within the social work course team will raise a hand or nod, let me know in case there are any technical issues. My name is Jonathan Holland, and I work within the market engagement team at Ulster University, and it is my job tonight to host the webinar alongside our course team. You'll see some of the names there. Some of you may have joined us for the last social work webinar a few months back, which was very popular as well. And it will give you a fantastic opportunity to learn more, not just about the degree programme, but all the various aspects, for example, placement, job, career progression that you may be interested in within the social work area itself. We've got a large team this evening to take us through the webinar. We have about an hour to do it. And as a part of that hour, we're going to leave aside probably about 20 minutes for a Q&A. And just on the Q&A, within Zoom, you should be able to submit a question via the chat or the question and answer. What we'll do is the team are going to try to answer some of those questions throughout the webinar. And what we'll do is we'll take some of those out, or those unanswered questions at the end of the formal piece of the webinar to put those questions to the team at the end at 6:40 as well. So I'm delighted to have with me today Denise McDermott, who is the subject lead for social work. We'll come to Denise in a second. Also joined by Dr. Emma McGuinness, subject lead for social work as well on the 3-year route. Dr. Sean Roddy for the 2-year route. Marie McElroy for the practice learning in terms of the coordination around that, and Dr. Paula McFadden, who is the admissions lead as well. Our webinars have been taking place over the last couple of months, and we do have a number of webinars on the UCAS application process, on hints and tips around, for example, the personal statement. So those are some of the questions you might want to ask the team tonight as well. We will cover the likes of what's within the modules, teaching, assessments. We'll hear from some of our current students from first, second and final year in terms of their perspective as well. So it'll be a great opportunity for you to learn all things social work at Ulster University. And I pass over to you now, Denise, to take us through the first section of that, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Welcome everybody to our social work webinar this evening. We're absolutely delighted that you can join us, and we will do our very best to give you a really good overview of what makes social work at Ulster so special. You can see from the slide there, we've an action-packed programme for you to cram under the next hour. An opportunity to hear about the 2-year course and the 3-year course from Sean and Emma, to hear about our placement and practice learning opportunities from Marie, to hear about the admissions process and international opportunities within social work from Paula, and I suppose the piece of all of this is the opportunity to hear from our current students about what makes social work at Ulster so fabulous and why they love it so much. So I suppose the plan for this now is that we really want to let the work shine for itself, and as a way to kind of get us all eased into the session, I want to introduce a very short video. It's just under around 2 minutes. A word from our Chancellor. Some of you may know him, James Nesbitt. So without further ado, if we could play the video, and I'll join you shortly.
So, why should you choose social work at Ulster University?
Well, where do we start? We are constantly striving to improve the lives of our students with continued investment in state-of-the-art teaching, research and support facilities.
We are a global university with over 1,000 international students from over 100 different countries. We have 185,000 alumni worldwide.
Steeped in history and culture, this once divided city is now flourishing with plenty to do for the young.
And the old are.
With award-winning careers development centres on every campus, the university will ensure that you're ready and supported to make that next step.
With 2 placements as part of your degree, both you and your employer can be confident in your ability.
With the help of the Higher Education Achievement Report that each student receives, it couldn't be easier to show your achievements, whether it's for employers or just for bragging rights.
Our courses are designed with your career in mind, working with employers and the Northern Ireland Social Care Council, the professional regulatory body.
This ensures that the skills, knowledge and experience you gain match those of the social work profession.
It's not all about studying though. Ulster University is the leading university for sport, so there's plenty to get involved in. There are a variety of different societies too, including the Stand Up for Social Work Society, the largest on the Magee campus.
If you have the compassion and commitment required for social work, then we at Ulster can help hone your skills and knowledge so you can join this worthwhile and rewarding profession. Social work needs you.
Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed that. And I promised it was just under 2 minutes, so we stopped there a word. You can see just in this next slide that I'll cover before I hand over to Emma and Sean. They'll give you a bit more detail on the specifics in terms of the modules that we offer at Ulster. You know, why study social work? Now more than ever in a global pandemic, you know, it's vital to be making a positive difference to people's lives, and a huge part of the social work profession is social justice and human rights, which, you know, in these times, these unprecedented times, having those skills are going to be valuable in how we rebuild our communities as we move forward. In terms of a professional identity, it's a very fulfilling job, and you'll get a sense when you come to Ulster and you get to meet the team. You get a sense of all our areas of expertise and the journeys that each of us have had. It's brought us then to Ulster as academics. So there's a wide and varied career path that you'll be involved in as a social worker. It's a very fulfilling and a lovely career. Again, it's about supporting students to be able to engage in social work study, and at the minute there is a non-means tested bursary for students residing in the north of Ireland of £4,500 for each academic year, and that's paid in 2 parts as well from the Department of Health. So that's a great help for paying your fees and to help with your transport costs for your 2 periods on placement. Employability in relation to social work is very good in terms of an outcome. 96% of our graduates are in full-time employment after 6 months. You know, there's a wealth of opportunities there in terms of the employment market. There's never been a better time to study as a social worker than Northern Ireland, and it will take you, and Paula will speak to this later on within the webinar. Your social work degree will take you globally wherever you want to go, which is brilliant. In terms of the starting salary as a newly qualified social worker, if you're working in the health and social care trusts or indeed in the voluntary and community sectors, you're starting out in and around £22,000 a year, and then within the health and social care sectors, you can then move up as you progress through the band scales, and similarly within the voluntary and community sectors as well. So it's a decent salary for the investment that you're putting in yourself and your future career going forward. Next slide, please, Jonathan. Oh, same slide, just additional points. As newly qualified social workers, you're required to do an assessed year in employment, and essentially what that assessed year in employment is about is consolidating your knowledge from your degree. So you'll be supervised by a professional supervisor during that first year post graduation to look at the skills that you have acquired and the areas of expertise then that you wish to develop as you progress onto the post-qualifying framework and the professionals and practice framework through the Northern Ireland Social Care Council. Our training model for social work is a blended approach, and 50% of the degree is based on practice learning or placements, which is referred to as the signature pedagogy of the profession. That's where you earn your stripes. That's where you learn to apply the theoretical concepts that we will be teaching you at the university, and you will then apply them when you go out on placement. And some of our students that are here this evening that will speak to that, some students that are currently on placement, and other students who have completed placement, and they'll be able to speak to that experience and how they manage that. Again, excellent career opportunities, and as I said, once you get to know us as a staff team and you join us at Ulster for your social work degree, you'll really start to get a sense of the pathways that we have taken and where we have what we have achieved within that time as well, in terms of PhD research and supporting the continued personal and professional development of colleagues as well. And again, your degree in social work enables you to study, to practice in countries outside of the UK and the island of Ireland as well. So it's really, really portable. In terms of career opportunities, you can see from the slide there, basically your social work degree give you an opportunity to work across a range of service user and expert by experience groups, from physical and learning disability, older people, family and child care, mental health, homelessness, the criminal justice system, education, welfare, and fostering and adoption. And that's only a few. That's just to give you a sense and a flavour of the opportunities that are available for you. As I said, never better time to become a social worker. So this is really the last slide for me, so I can pass on to our colleagues. But you know, social work, it's for everyone, irrespective of your gender or your age. You know, it's not. Sometimes I suppose there's perhaps a misconception that it's a female profession. That is not true, and men are very much underrepresented within the social work workforce and indeed within the social work program. So we welcome applicants of all genders to the program. The nature of the job, you know, it is important that, you know, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So it is important that all individuals within society are represented within social work and practice, and also within the education setting. Sometimes we hear from candidates or applicants that say, you know, oh, I'm too young to apply for social work. That is not true. We welcome students from all ages. So you've got your life experience and you have willingness to learn and engage, then, you know, social work is for you, because you start off and you build your skills as you go along. So again, we've successfully recruited post-A-level students into the social work degree as well through the various access courses that are there. So one of the students will give an absolutely shameless plug about the Social Work Society probably in a few more minutes. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let the students speak to that experience themselves. And at this stage now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I am handing over to my colleague, Emma.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Denise, for that comprehensive intro to social work at Magee and the pathways to that. I'm going to talk a wee bit first here about the three options available. And first of all, just to say thank you very much, everyone, for your participation this evening. And we're delighted that you've taken the time to come to our webinar. So I'm going to speak to you about the 3-year full-time course at Magee. Now, our 3-year full-time course, we have a 3-year course at Magee. We also provide year 1 and year 2 of our programme in Belfast Metropolitan College, Belfast Met, and Southwest College in Dungannon. And the final year then, our final years all come to Magee. So say, for example, this year, all final years from Belfast Met and from Southwest are joining us all online in our online Magee campus. But just so you're aware, and hopefully when we get back to relatively normal service, we do a lot of work for that process of transferring to Magee. So we meet with you prior to that. We have you all up on the campus and we enjoy a day in the campus together. We introduce you to all our resources and facilities. So just to be aware of that. Also, we have our 2-year full-time accelerated our relevant graduate route program at Magee. My colleague Sean is going to talk with you a wee bit more about that. So moving on to our next slide, and Denise has already mentioned to you, and just to reinforce what our fees are for each year, and that of course we have the bursary, the £4,000 plus 5,000 expenses, travel expenses every year, and that's paid at 2 separate periods. Okay, so moving on to our next slide. So there's a little bit of information there on the academic entry criteria, and anybody with any queries about admissions at all should contact admissions at Ulster, or I mean you can initially contact myself and Sean, and we will, if we're not able to answer your question, then we will happily refer on to admissions, who just to reinforce, have the expertise on everything related to the admissions process. As everyone knows, it's through UCAS. Okay, so moving on again. So again, that's our requirements for the entry into our 2-year relevant graduate route. And whatever the source of entry, all students must take part in the interview process. Okay, so all this information is available. So what do we do? Well, we support adults, children, families and communities to improve their lives, protect and promote human rights and well-being. And here at Social Work and Ulster Magee, we really have an emphasis on promoting social justice and challenging inequalities, and understanding the role that they have in terms of social work practice. We aim to improve people's lives, you can read it there yourselves, by helping with social and interpersonal difficulties, promoting rights and well-being, protect children and adults from harm, where the safeguarding issues are apparent, then we deal with those, and help families who are under pressure. And as Denise alluded to on a number of occasions, and as we're all being made very aware presently, families have never been under more pressure in many ways than they are now, not least from the range of factors that are impacting on them in coping with the current pandemic crisis we find ourselves in. And these are going to resonate for a while, and we do need more social workers in terms of managing these. So demanding, but hopefully our students will attest to, our in placement now, very, very rewarding. Our subjects, we cover a raft of subjects that have a role and that feed into social work practice. So social work's a bit of an amalgam. It borrows from a lot of disciplines, and that's what makes it so diverse and so interesting. You see there social policy, sociology, law, psychology. We have a preparation for practice learning module in our first year. In the 3-year program, we do that in semester 2. So our first year students are going to be taking part in that module from January on. And it's an intense communication-based skills module that is required to pass as required and before progressing to placements. But all our students, whilst it can be challenging, they gain a huge amount from that module in preparing them for placement. The academic subjects provide students with the theory and knowledge base they need, the essential theory and knowledge they need to practice as a social worker, as a qualifying social worker entering AYE. Okay, and moving on. So again, to the real, to the important stuff, the moolah, the money, the funds. as you see, this is really what social workers can expect. And what I would say is that that's fairly basic. Social workers can, I suppose there are numerous opportunities for promotion within and across particular interest areas. Say, for example, in work with children and families, there obviously, because that's a huge area of social work practice, if it's preferred for people to go into, well, then there are a lot of opportunities for promotion and development. So it's really where you want to take it down to the individual themselves. Okay, moving on to our next slide, and my colleague Marie is going to speak to this with a lot more kind of authority and expertise. But as you'll see, that's the basics about our placement experience. Students can be anywhere in Northern Ireland, and we must stress that at the very beginning, that they can be anywhere really within Northern Ireland. And placements cover a huge range of statutory and voluntary sites, and they're really diverse. And I mean, as practice develops, the opportunities, placement opportunities and practice opportunities are becoming ever more diverse and interesting. So at this stage, maybe I might pass you on to my learned colleague, Dr. Sean Roddy, who can take up the baton and talk to our next slide.
Yeah, but so I'm the course director for the 2-year fast track, and I suppose it's slightly different than the 3-year. So anybody that comes along on the fast track has a relevant degree, and there's a lot of people ask what is a relevant degree. So business with computing is not a relevant degree in relation to social work. So something like psychology, sociology, criminology would be a relevant degree. So a relevant degree has to be at least 33% of the course comprises of one of the following. So we've added nursing, community workers now, early childhood studies, social policy and administration. And I know that up in our Jordanstown campus, we have quite a number of students who would do criminology, and many of them actually come on then to do social work. So if you are considering social work maybe in a few years' time, you can always do a degree in something else and then come on to the social work degree. Now, our admissions team will be able to tell you exactly if your degree fits it, because they've a lovely matrix made out that they can work out what actually comprises of it. So because it is a fast track and it's a 2-year degree, it's pretty intense. So once you come within your first semester, you end up doing 4 modules in your first semester. And one of them is quite intense. It's the preparation for practice learning module, because the way the course is structured, you go out in placement in the January of your first year, and you're out in placement for 85 days, which takes you up to mid-May. Then when you come on to your second year, which in effect is your final year, you actually merge with another final year group of the 3-year degree, and you do another 3 modules. One of them is actually a big module, which Paul McFadden coordinates here, which is their interventions. So we look at different service user groups and we look at interventions. We have a law module, and we've also got a family and childcare module. So when you complete that semester, you're back out in placement again in the January, and that's for 100 days. So when you think about the 2-year fast track degree, you actually spend half of your time on placement. You're only 2 semesters in the university, so it is quite intense, and the placement is a huge component of it. So that's why we like that people are coming with this maybe prior knowledge and understanding of some of the pertinent issues that are facing society at the minute. Maybe things around sociology and psychology. So them's the sort of real things that we need to be recruiting students with that background knowledge, I suppose. People always ask how many spaces there are on the 2-year fast track, and ordinarily it's maybe around between 40 and 45, and then on the 3-year degree there's maybe around 60 or 65 places. So every year we're funded by the Department of Health for that. I think there's around 105 places overall, the 2 degrees. So it is quite competitive. One of the other questions that people usually ask is, because I have student finance out in my first degree, will student finance fund me for this because it's seen as a second degree? And yes, they will, because it's seen as a professional qualification. Although it's a degree and not a master's or a PhD, they will fund the student finance. So I'm going to wait before I give any more information, because I've actually one of the RGR students here with me this evening, Julianne, and she's in week 8 of the semester now, and she'll be able to speak later on about it. But because a big component of it is the placements, this is one of the things that students really worry about. So I'm actually going to hand you over now to Marie McElroy, and she'll be able to talk more about the placements. And even on the 3-year degree, you end up doing 2 placements as well. So over to you, Mrs. McElroy.
Ms. Sean.
Ms. Sorry.
Thanks very much, colleagues. Thank you very much. You're all very, very welcome. And it's great to see so many participants on this webinar this evening. So I'm sure there will be lots of questions in the chat box coming up around placements, because whilst placements can be and always is, and I'm sure the students will speak to this, one of the most exciting, the most challenging aspects of the social work degree programme. Sometimes it can cause a lot of worries for students thinking about where they're going to be placed. So I'm going to try and just demystify some of that for you in the short time that we have. So every student coming on to social work, whether you come on to the 3-year programme or whether you come on to the 2-year programme, you'll have to do 2 placements. So the first placement is an 85-day placement. And for people coming on to the 3-year programme, that happens at the beginning of year 2. It runs from August until December. And for any of you who are thinking about coming on to the fast track programme, your first placement starts in year 1 of the fast track, and it starts from January and it runs right through to May. And that's 85 days duration. Within that, you get 8 study days. And then there are also days called recall days, where we bring you back into the university to do specific pieces of work around placement, around your academic submission. This year we're doing that online because of the current situation that we're all in. And then your final placement is 100 days, and that's in year 3 for the 3-year programme, and it's in year 2 for the fast track programme. So earlier on, Denise was talking about, all the opportunities, particularly the job opportunities that are out there for social work. There are a significant amount of job opportunities out there at the moment, so it's a really good time to be coming to social work. And it's supposed to help prepare you for that. We have fantastic working arrangements with all of the health and social care trusts in the north of Ireland, with the probation service, the education authority. We have students on placement as education welfare officers, with organisations like the NSPCC, with Bernardo's, with Extern, with the Simon Community, with the Youth Justice Agency, in hospital settings. So there's such a huge variety of placements for everybody to access. But where will those placements be? And it's really, really important that when you come on to social work, that you have to come with a flexible head and a flexible approach, because social work by its very nature is actually really quite challenging, and it requires you to be flexible in your thinking, and it requires you to be flexible in your approach to the subject, in your approach to the learning, and in your approach to practice. So you can be placed anywhere in the north of Ireland, and it's really, really important that you hear this, because a lot of the times, whenever we're allocating placements, students will come back and say, I know you said, but I really thought I was going to get somewhere, at the bottom of my street or in my town. We do try really, really, really hard, I have to say, to try and place students within an hour travelling distance from home. And for the most part, I think we're actually quite successful in doing that. But there are exceptions to that rule, and that really is about the availability of placements, because we can only work with the placements that come to us and are put on the table by all of our agency partners. So, for example, if you were a student that had to travel in excess of 1 hour in your first placement, then we would make sure that you don't have to travel in your second placement. But flexibility is key. And I think it's also really important to be mindful that even when you're in a placement, you'll have to travel. So, for example, you could be in a placement in Cityside Child Protection Team in Derry, but you could be, you might be the social worker for children who are in foster care right across the Western Trust. You could have children who are in placement, for example, in the wilds of Fermanagh, but you might be based in an office in Derry. You might have to go to the High Court in Belfast. So there is a lot of travel as well within social work, and not just as a student, but also when you're qualified. But I'm more than happy to field any kind of questions around that. There are some occasions when we can consider limitation to travel. For example, you know, if you need reasonable adjustments because of a disability, or if you have significant caring responsibilities for a child or an elderly relative, and you know, you can talk to us separately about that, but you would need to provide very substantial medical evidence to support that. In terms of the placement settings, well, you could have placements in family and childcare teams. That could be the Gateway team, it could be the family intervention team, it could be the team that supports looked after children. It could be in residential homes for children who can't live at home with their parents, so they're looked after. It could be in the children's disability team, adults disability team. It could be in the programme of care for older people. It could be adult mental health. It could be child and adolescent mental health. It could be with the homeless agencies, for example, the Simon Community. It can be with the voluntary sector, like, for example, Extern, who support young people who are at risk of either going into care or juvenile justice. Extern also work with adult sex offenders. They also work with probation clients. You could have a placement, a final year placement only with the probation service. We do have placements with the Youth Justice Agency who work with young offenders. Specifically, we have placements in day centres for adults with learning disabilities, physical disabilities, mental health difficulties. We have placements in family centres all around the country. You could be, as I mentioned earlier on a placement with the education welfare teams. So the actual options and the possibilities for placement are so wide that you know, when you sit down, when I sit down and I start to think about all the placement opportunities that are actually out there, it's actually incredible what we do as a region, ourselves in Queen's and all of our agency partners, to coordinate a really, really good placement experience for everybody. And I'm really hoping now that when the students come in, that they're going to echo all of that. I know we've got some students on tonight who are currently on placement, and we have got some students as well who have already been on placement. I know Joseph is on, and he's going to be going to his final year placement, which I'm just working on at the moment. He's going to be going out there in January. So I think that's probably about it, colleagues, in terms of placement. But by all means, feel free to drop me in the wee chat box, and I will sit here quite happily and answer your questions. Thank you all. I'm going to hand over, I think, to Dr. Paula McFadden. Is that right?
Hi, Marie. Thank you very much. That's
Thanks,
great.
Paula.
Hello, everybody. It's great to see so many people on here. You're really welcome to our webinar. So I would be the admissions lead within the academic staff. So if there's, you know, any specific questions anyone wants to ask me, I'll try and answer them. We also have admissions staff here if there's anything around, you know, like types of qualifications and all of that, because that, you know, there can be very specific questions that they would take the lead on. But as well as talking about that, and my colleagues have already, you know, spoke about the 3 Bs, you know, for entry and GCSE Maths and English. We also take essential skills in Maths and English now as well. So that's worth noting. The process now doesn't include personal statement, or not. You used to have to write like a 600-word piece that was part of the admissions process. So we have not included that now in the next intake for 2021. So you would apply through UCAS with the deadline on the 15th of January. And the next stage of the process then would be being called to interview if you meet the academic selection criteria. And so the interviews during a pandemic have moved to a virtual interview where you'll be given a couple of days, you'll be sent all the information about what we're asking you to do, and that's pre-recording answers to questions. And they are submitted then via like a hyperlink to the admissions team, and they're assessed, and then you would hear the outcome following that. Now, it's a regional process, so it's the same no matter where you're applying in Northern Ireland, that we all work together. So I just wanted to go over that a little bit before I talk to you about international opportunities and how internationalisation is a really important part of the social work curriculum. So it's embedded within our thinking in terms of the teaching and the literature that we would use, so as we can bring a diverse set of information to our students and prepare you for a global mindset in relation to social work, because social work is a global profession. It can take you to other countries. We would have students that have gone to Australia to work, Canada to work, America, and so forth. You can get your qualification recognised in other countries. We have Erasmus links with Norway and Germany, so that involves our staff going there, for teaching opportunities. Marie has done this previously. Also, it means that we have staff from these countries, are welcome to come to Ulster University, and we would have an annual event with colleagues from Norway that come and teach us and talk to our students about how that they deliver social pedagogy, a methodology of teaching in Northern European countries. So at times there's opportunities as well for studying abroad, and we would have like summer schools in Norway. We've had a student go to Germany and get involved with the curriculum there and practice opportunities there as well. So we also have links with the University of New South Wales through Denise, and we've had students that have come from there and done modules with us, and I know we're developing those links as well. So research, so the academic staff are all involved in research and a specific area, so we keep our knowledge updated, and that's a very active process. So beyond the degree, in a future point in your career, that's something you might want to think about a wee bit more. I think that is my only slide. Is that right, Connor? I think that's us finished.
Hey, Paul. Yes, I think that's your slide cover. I think we're moving to our current students. I'm not sure which one of the panelists wants to introduce our first, second, and final year students on the different routes.
Well, maybe I'll come on first because sure. I've got one of the first year students on the RGR course. So it's Julianne Barr, and she has a previous degree, and Julianne's in the middle of her first semester, and she's all excited because she's going on placement in January, but she hasn't got a clue where she's going. But it's just like Christmas. It's like getting a surprise for Christmas, isn't it, Julianne?
Something like that, Sean. I think it's nerve-wracking, but it's really exciting. Yeah, I just can't wait. And I think the rest of the class is keen just to find out where we're going. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. And suppose even if you want to sort of explain to people maybe some of the the subjects that you're learning at the minute, and I suppose even in this global pandemic, how you find learning online?
Yeah, in regards to what we're studying at the minute, some of the lecturers have touched on the preparation for practice module, and I think that's something that I wanted to talk about, because before I started, the thought of doing role plays and watching myself on video was something that I was really nervous about. But it's just to say that that's one of the things I found the most helpful so far. Being able to watch yourself back and see, you know, what you're doing and what you're not doing, I think it's been fantastic for learning. And we also have the opportunity then to work with a lecturer and also a social worker who's in practice at the minute, so that's really helpful because they've got really good tips of like exactly, I suppose, what they're doing. We're also doing an experts by experience module, so we're looking at different service user groups. Last week we were really lucky to speak to experts from We Have Trauma who took us through their personal stories, which was really touching, and it really helps you just actually imagine what it would be like, I suppose, to be part of services and to be getting a service from a social worker. In regards to COVID, I suppose COVID is positive and negative. For me, I live in Belfast, and I think I saw somebody on the chat, you know, talking about the commute down. So it's saved me doing that. I felt that it's been really helpful in regards to doing a bit more work. The time I suppose I would have expected to be travelling, I'm now able to do some work, so that's really good. And the online learning has been great. I think I'm quite lucky with a good internet connection, that there's been no bumps or I haven't missed out on anything. I think something that's really positive as well is a lot of the lecturers are doing like video podcasts and audio podcasts. I know in my last degree I did psychology, and I remember sitting in the big room missing something really important and not being able to rewind it. But now if there's something you're not sure on, you can rewind it back, you can listen to it 2-3 times. So I think that's something that I find really, really positive. So yeah, no, I would encourage everyone to apply. I have to say, in regards to Magee as well, all the lecturers, all the staff are really so it's just easy to get in touch with. There's quick email responses, you're not sitting too long worrying about something or wondering. And as well, all the students, it's a total range across our year. There's people who've just come out of their first degree, and there's people who are older with families, and there's me that's kind of in the middle, that's had work experience but I don't have a family. So, you know, there's a range of different things and a range of different experiences. But no, I think it's great, and I would welcome everybody to apply.
Thank you very much, Julianne. She must have a brilliant tutor, so she must have. She's saying all those warm, glowing things. and I suppose that's one of the points we like to make as well, that once you come on the degree, you have a personal tutor, so somebody who helps and supports you in your application for, you know, you're filling out your forms when you're going in placement, and somebody you can go and talk to just about, you know, even study skills. And so, and even the library staff, they're just phenomenal, you know, especially during this time, but even in normal times, in order to approach them. So I think, Emma, maybe you're going to introduce some of the...
Yes, so maybe second year, for a second year, I'll introduce Paula McCormick, who is currently in the thick of it on placement. And anytime I've had opportunity to speak with her, she is firefighting something, literally almost. So I'll hand you over to Paula to give you a wee flavour of what placement and social work is like. First placement. There you go, Paula.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, so I'm on my first placement. I'm with the Adult Learning Disability team in Coleraine, and yeah, it's brilliant. The first year at uni really does prepare you. I mean, you don't quite make sense of everything, but when you're out doing the job, then it really makes sense. But the challenges are just fantastic. Anything that threw at me, I never thought I'd be take on half the challenges that I have, but I've embraced them and I've loved every second of it. The team's brilliant, and just the support you get from the tutor at Magee, the tutors at Magee, and the practice teacher has just been brilliant, and the learning everything. Yeah, it's been fantastic, and yeah, you learn a lot. Yeah, just I couldn't recommend placement enough. It's thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah, you think the workload's going to be heavy, but it's not. You manage it. It just all falls into place when you're out on it, and you get a real feel of doing social work, and it just confirmed to me that that's what I really want to do, and I love it.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's Paula was. I think I can safely say, Paula, you were at that stage where you were all chomping as a bit your class to just get out there and get on with the placement experience. So next, maybe I'm going to ask Joe, who's masquerading as Emma McGuinness in the video, but he's not. There's not two Emma McGuinnesses. There is only one Joe Farusa, and I'll ask Joe to talk a wee bit because he's in final year down at the business end of the degree, first semester, he and Florence Louise. So I'm going to ask Joe to talk a wee bit about his experience of where he's at right now as a student on the 3-year final year of the programme. Joe, you need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, got you.
Yeah, I think first of all, I would like to say to people who like to start social work at Magee, don't be like what I did. I was procrastinating, and procrastination is a thief of time. And just go with your instinct. And because I had my own worries, I had my own fears. Will I be able to undertake the course? Will I be, coming from a, ethnic minority, background as well? You be worrying about, will I be accepted? Will I fit in? But tell you what, Magee University is the place to be. And everyone in my cohort is just nice. The staff, and I can't remember who I was talking to. Was it Sean Rory or was it Tony? I says, can you tell me how is it possible that you could have more than 60 students in one class and they're all very nice? And he says to me, Joe, apart from your academic achievement, when you come for interviews, one of the things that we look for is your qualities. Do you have the qualities of becoming a social worker? And so I'm saying to you, apart from your academic achievement, apart from your personal statement, doing well in an interview, one of the things that we're looking at is, have you got the social work values? And in terms of our learning, we have very supportive tutors. They're friendly, they're approachable, and there's not any time you would feel on your own. You have class reps as well if you've got any issues, but if you've got problems of any personal nature, you're free to speak to your personal tutor, to course director or whoever, and they will be happy, more than happy to assist you. And then I think one of the worries was in terms of, your financial situation, will I be able to manage? Something that you need to know is you may not be able to keep your job if you're going to have to come in, especially for those that are doing a 2-year program. And so it's something that you really need to think about carefully before you make a decision. There is help, there is financial help through student finance, there is financial help through our student union as well. And in terms of buying books, because that was my worry as well, do I need to buy books to help with my learning? There are ebooks available online that you can access. So you don't necessarily have to buy books. So before you buy anything online, just double check if the university online library has a copy of that. So you don't need to worry about that. And then in terms of placement, I've had my placement and it was a wonderful experience for myself. I never felt alone because I had the support from my practice teacher, support from my on-site supervisor, support from my personal tutor as well. And the first 2 weeks, the first week, I think it's just dedicated to training. You need to have the appropriate training before you embark on any work with the clients. I was in adult services, and then the second week, basically you're getting to know the caseload, just reading about the cases and getting to know the clients. And then before that, you'll be bombarded with cases. And then in the middle of that, you would be expected to do some assignments, some essays, and depending with your personal tutor as well, he or she might decide to give you some extra work to that as well. So, like I said, procrastination is a thief of time. If your instinct tells you you're gonna go for it, don't wait too long, and Magee is the place to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joe, for those lovely words. But we really work so hard at being relational with our students. So, Jonathan.
Yes, thanks very much, Joe. Emily, we have tons of questions that have come in through the Q&A and the chat. I know the team have been working on the background to get to some of those questions. One of the things I wanted to pick up on that Paul was mentioning was in and around the personal statement stroke supplementary statement that was usually looked at in previous years. Obviously, that's been recently announced that the second statement isn't required this year. Some of the questions that have come in, and I know as well from schools over this past couple of weeks, since we have announced it as well, that is what effect that would have on, for example, students who didn't know about that but have already submitted their application with the personal statement in. So again, it was just to restate, I suppose, that there isn't a second statement required this year. Paul, that's right, yes?
Yes, that's right, Jonathan. So the normal process for UCAS will require a personal statement on UCAS, no matter what a student is applying for. But we used to have a second personal statement of 600 words that was used for shortlisting.
Okay, and that would be irrelevant, of course, to any new applicant unless somebody was applying again from last year. So
yes, exactly.
The focus should be on the personal statement. The difficulty with the personal statement for applicants is they could be applying to other courses at other universities, so it's a bit of a juggling act for them to focus in on that personal statement. So what we're going to ask the team here is there a bit of advice at the personal statement now that this year is going to be focused on the one PS for social work at Ulster?
The personal statement won't be taken into account as part of the admissions process, Jonathan. That's the important point.
Okay.
It's good to write your personal statement. Just whatever courses that you're trying, it's a very fine line. I know, say somebody's trying to apply for both social work and nursing, for example. They're trying to caring qualities and, being part of the health and professions. But that is not read as part of the admissions process, so they don't have to get hung up on it.
Okay. And so what sort of bearing then does the personal statement have then on the process if, potential candidates were looking to make sure they got onto the course? What are we looking for here in particular? Are we trying to reflect somebody's career aspirations and looking at specific employability skills that they have that would make them a very successful social worker? What are we looking at then for them?
We aren't looking at the personal statement, Jonathan. We are only looking at the entry criteria, right?
Okay.
The educational criteria and the interview.
Sure.
So they don't, that's not going to have a bearing on the outcome.
Yeah. And that was good to clarify. It's obviously a bit of a mix up there in some of the questions that were coming through and some of the statements that we've had. Grades, and then of course interview thereafter online.
Yeah. So apologies if I have thrown people into a bit of a tailspin with that. We're coming out with that, and because it wouldn't mean anything to you unless.
No, that's okay. It was probably me that picked it up wrong as well, so it's better to clarify it here because this session is recorded anyway, and it will be available to others looking at it, and we can confirm that out to schools and colleges through our links within the market engagement team as well. Another question there, Paul, I'm not sure if you picked it up at the very beginning or on the Q&A. Someone there was asking if they were doing the degree 2 years at Belfast Met and the third year at Magee, how many days a week are they in Magee in their third year?
It would be 3 days per week. Usually, and the way the timetable has been constructed, it's like a Monday and then a Thursday and Friday. And so pre-pandemic, students from Belfast Met or South West College would have stayed in Derry overnight on a Thursday night, you know, some of them, and they would have carried on car share and things like that to try and minimise that kind of on the road aspect of this. So that's why we separated out the days and clustered them together then at the tail end of the week, so as that they wouldn't be up and down, you know, for 3 days in a row or anything like that.
Okay.
I think it's worth pointing out that the semesters are 12 weeks. So, you know, it's usually finished up by the 12th or 13th of December. And the semester starts around the 26th of September. So it's actually only 12 weeks. It's not quite a long period of time.
Yes, that's right, Sean.
Okay. A few other questions come in. I know Marie and Sean, you had indicated that you wanted to answer these live as opposed to replying back just on the chat there. Very simple, I think, some of these questions. For the 2-year option in is social policy considered equivalent to health and social care policy? Or Sean, you had indicated you want to answer that.
Yeah, so social policy and social health and care policy, at the the relevant degrees, they are considered for the 2-year fast track.
Okay, simple. Okay, answer. Yep. Marie, I think it was Oren here. The question is, I'm doing a BTEC HNC level 4 in social and community work in year 1. Do you know how many points are needed?
Actually, the reason why I said about maybe answering that live is I was hoping that some of the admissions staff would pick that one up, because it's not necessarily straightforward with the HNC, because some of the modules are level 4 and level 5, so I didn't want to give any misinformation.
Okay, I know that can be quite difficult to answer, I suppose. Maybe, Paula, if there was an email address there or a specific contact that we could give out to answer that one would be great.
I think Sinead's on this call. I've seen Sinead answering some of the Q&A.
Okay. Sinead, you can actually go back to the top of the Q&A and answer it or in there privately if you want to take that query offline. A lot of the questions we have were to do with the personal statement, so we've actually cleared that one up. And again, a lot of entry requirements. So some of the entry requirement questions have a lot of permutations around people doing either A-levels, BTECs, combinations, and so on, and it could be quite long to get into tonight, especially within the Q&A. Our colleagues in the background within admissions will hopefully take those questions offline and answer them directly. I've noticed we've actually answered a lot of the questions throughout the course of the Q&A. I'm just trying to get to a few of the most recent ones here as well. So,
Hey, Jonathan, that Sinead's just answered that one on the HNC in the chat box there.
Right, okay, yeah, see that.
So in terms of the HNC, the entrance requirements are that you need an overall distinction to include 90 level 4 credits at distinction level. So 90 credits at level 4. So if you're unsure about what that means, then you should probably go back and have a talk with your course coordinator in your college.
Yes.
And they will take you through what that means for you.
Super, thanks, Marie. Good question here with regards to the interview, taking us on then from the personal statement question earlier on. It was from Jenna Donald. What can we expect from the interview process? For example, number of questions, topics, and advice on how to prepare.
So the interview involves, there's like a case scenario, and there's questions then associated with that. So you're given like a little short case study. It's about 3 or 4 sentences, so it's not a big, long, complicated. And then you're asked a couple of questions in relation to that about social work and what the role of social work is, and the types of things you would need to be thinking about if you're a social worker. We also look at things around, more generally, motivation, knowledge of what the profession's about, and we keep those questions to 5, right? So you'll have 5 questions in total, including the 2 that are related to the case scenario. So you'll be given full instructions, right? If you're called to interview about, the kind of time you have to spend answering the questions. You have about 48 hours, a couple of days that you're going to be able to go and do a wee bit of research about how to answer the questions, which is an advantage to somebody coming on to an interview and not having any knowledge of what they're going to be asked in advance of that. So the process is actually more favourable from a candidate perspective, because you're going to get a wee bit of time to look into what you need to be thinking about. And there's loads of resources, and we do share those as well, or signpoint you to them. For example, within the Northern Ireland Social Care Council pages website, there's lots of information about social work. If you're looking to study social work, the types of qualities, values and ethics and things to consider. So, there's lots of really good information available to help you prepare for the interview as well. So hopefully that has answered your question.
Yeah, and just to add that, Paul, I know there's been a few questions there from people asking how they would prepare for an interview in general. Well, there would be lots of resources, not just within our Career Development Centre, within the university, I suppose also by Career Service Northern Ireland, and how to prepare for interviews, and specifically online interviews, which could be, of course, I suppose quite difficult to explain, but all the same rules apply, in my opinion. And you'll probably see that also echoed in a lot of the interview preparation techniques and resources that you'll find online as well, regardless of what you're applying for or interviewing for. Also, I'm not sure if we have any webinars, Paul, do you know, or within the social work team, do we have any sort of webinars available that would help in support of the interview, given the fact that it's a sort of slightly new process this year being online?
Yeah, Jonathan, but just in relation to applying for a social work degree, the Northern Ireland Degree and Social Work Partnership has a lot of resources up on their website. So if you go on to nidswp.net, there is something there, and also within the Northern Ireland Social Care website, nisc.info.
Okay, could you drop that in, could you, when you're before the end of the chat, just so
I'll type
that link.
Sean, just to let you know, the NISC, the Degree Partnership website's down, so and it's going to be down. So the NISC website.
Right.
Yeah, they're all on the NISC website.
Yeah.
And I think now, Jonathan, even finish up, I think Denise and Louise, we maybe leave the last word to Louise, who's one of our ambassadors for Stand Up for Social Work. So just to sort of bring everything together. Is that all right,
Denise? That would be great, just before we finish up, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hello everybody. I just want to say I'm a final year student and I'm currently involved with the Stand Up for Social Work Society. So if you don't know about it, look it up on Facebook and Twitter and have a wee read round. We currently have a wee campaign going on for Christmas. It's really good crack to get involved in, because every year we would do about 150 hampers or so for families within our community. So it's directly going back into the community. Unfortunately, this year, because of COVID, it's kind of hampered that, no pun intended. So we've had to kind of think out of the box and try and come up with new ways to fundraise. But usually in previous years, it's great across first, second and third year, everybody comes together and we all basically give back into the community. I just also wanted to say my journey with social work as well is getting on this degree. It's such a great opportunity. It's basically the way I look at it is like driving. It basically gives you all the essentials, and then it's really up to you where you want to take it. Your path is your own, and whatever skills you want to pick up along the way, that's up to you as well, so you can invest in yourself. I recently had a conversation with one of my fellow students, and we were chatting about how, when we started in first year, how this degree has changed us. Because basically, our thought pattern and our thinking and how we look at life and how we look at ourselves was completely different 3 years ago to how it is now, because you look at your values and it really makes you think about current situations as well. So I would highly recommend, if you're thinking of getting on to social work, just do it. Go for it. It'll be the best decision you'll make. So I'll just leave it there, nice and short and sweet.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Louise. Folks, that's us coming to the end of this evening's webinar. We may have a number of questions still to answer online, and the team have promised to look at those over the next 10 or 15 minutes, but we'll do that off camera and off audio. I would like to thank the course team, Denise, Sean, Emma, Marie and Paula, for delivering a very informative, fantastic webinar, and also to Julianne, Paula, Joe and Louise to add that perspective, which I think is very important as well. Guys, we will have a number of other webinars, support webinars, if you want to look at webinars to do with UCAS application, for example. And of course, some of those resources there Sean has put up as well. You'll find the webinars at ulster.ac.uk/webinars, and hopefully that'll give you some support, and especially during the current restrictions, to help you apply to Ulster University. One of the things we didn't touch on this evening, which you will be able to see other webinars on, is to find out more about Magee Campus, the facilities we have up there as well. We actually did have a webinar this evening at roughly the same time, so there was a bit of a clash, but it will be available as a pre-recorded session at the same website that I mentioned a second ago. So all that's left to do, as I say for now, is thank you for joining us this evening, and hopefully we'll see you all at Ulster University at Magee Campus in September 21. Thank you.
The nicest campus.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Leave.